first question, which is essentially that you guys are the biggest players in the industry. And have you guys seen any impact of the pandemic in terms of business?
Well, definitely there has been an impact, and I'm restricting my answers to Maccaferri's business in India
Sure.
because obviously Maccaferri is there around the world, but then it would be too expansive an answer. So I'll restrict my answers to Maccaferri in India. Of course, we have been affected to an extent because for the months of April and May were zero business that could happen because there was a complete lockdown. Since the month of May, things started picking up again. We started reopening our manufacturing operations and our project sites a bit by bit based on the procedures issued by the government and the feasibility of it. And things have started moving up since. So right now, I feel that things have improved a lot since the month of May, and are likely to improve even more by the time we end the year, because obviously the government is trying to push through on infrastructure works. Although there is a constraint around funds and liquidity and things like that, but the government definitely wants to push this through because this will have a trickle down effect on other areas of the economy in terms of liquidity being available and things like that.
Okay.
So generally speaking, I think in the current year we would have lost about 20% of our business that we could have done, probably
Okay.
in those 1.5 months and a little bit, 20 to 30% of our business. Yeah.
All right. All right. Um, there's some news about takeover internationally and about some organizational changes at
Mhm.
Maccaferri India. Would you like to throw some
Mhm.
light on that as well?
In McAfee, India, there are no organizational changes per se. We have a little bit tweaked our approach because we wanted to have a matrix organization, very lean and agile and responsive to the different market segments. Because if you have been a little familiar with McAfee, we are involved in several business units, and then within the business units different segments and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's a fairly let's say exhaustive size of an organization to deal with all of that with the equal amount of focus. But obviously, given the present timing and constraints, one has to have a more, let's say, nimble-footed, agile approach so that we are able to do justice to the opportunities that are being made available. So yeah, there has been a little bit of tweaking of the organization within McAfee India, but no significant change per se. Uh, but the other important change is that beginning of last year, 2019,
Mhm.
um, India and the Southeast Asia region were merged together as a single region from a global McAfee management point of view. This was basically done to take advantage of the large region and the synergies across the region, and also to basically integrate the management and the team and the operation so that we are able to maximize the benefit. So this is something for which the integration process has been going on since last year, and because of COVID, things kind of slowed down a little bit. But now the organization is quite deeply integrated, and things are running quite well across the board, across India, Southeast Asia, and Pacific. And I have the responsibility of managing this region, of course, and reporting to the group CEO. In terms of the information that you're seeking about group takeover and things like that, yeah, certain things are in play at the group level. But this is essentially, because Officine Maccaferri, which is our holding company, Officine Maccaferri's holding company, Sechi, had gone in for some kind of voluntary restructuring last year. So as a result of that, this is a matter which is sub judice and then not advisable for me to talk any more about it.
Okay.
Whatever is transpiring will come through in the next couple of months very clearly. And also, if you check out the Italian media, there would be a lot of news already available there about the current state of things and what's going on.
Mhm.
So that's fairly, let's say, clear in terms of the status of things.
Sure. I also wanted to understand from you, what is your estimate in terms of the market size of rockfall protection and landslide mitigation in India, and how much percentage of that is owned by Maccaferri?
See, rockfall protection and landslide mitigation, if you talk about it in the same breath, then it would be a significantly largish market, because rockfall protection is very specialized, with its solutions, with the engineering and all that. Whereas landslide mitigation is more a subjective approach. It depends on a particular location, what is the trigger for the landslide, and there could be XYZ solutions being used for the landslide mitigation. So, for rockfall protection, I would think that the size of the industry right now would still be quite fledgling, in the sense that because it's specialized and still not as a priority with the let's say the government and the authorities. The size would be somewhere, in my opinion, somewhere between 10 to 15 million euros,
Okay. Okay.
or I would say 80 to 150 crores, something like that. That's the size of the rockfall protection market per se, which is a very specialized area. And if we were to extend that into cut slope stabilization and, let's say, the landslide mitigation, as you said, then it would be somewhere in the range, again, difficult to estimate, but somewhere in the range of about 500 to 1,000 crores. I mean, probably closer to 1,000 than to 500,
Okay.
because these landslide mitigation works are usually a part of a larger road project or something like that. So it's difficult to estimate the market size of the landslide mitigation per se. But my own, let's say, thumb impression would be something around that, between 500 to 1,000.
And how much what is the Maccaferri revenue in like market share in terms of that? So,
In the rockfall space, I think McAfee is somewhere between 40 to 50%. The landslide mitigation, again, these are not based on any kind of statistics. It's just a feel.
sure.
Um, I would say about 15%, 15 to 20% in the landslide mitigation.
Okay. And the last part of the question, what is the portion of the revenues in India specifically that comes from these two segments? So, what is the percentage of Maccaferri revenue that comes from rockfall and then from landslide mitigation?
From rockfall, it would be about um, 25-30%.
Okay, so I would
Could
like
could
to.
be could be more also, because
Okay.
again, when we're talking about the way we analyze our business is we do it across business units. So
Hmm.
we have Gabions, or the double twist, then we have geosynthetics, then we have rockfall, and then
Yeah.
these business units spread out into different segments and things like that. So a landslide mitigation could have a little bit of Gabions, a little bit of geosynthetics, and a little bit of rockfall, like that. So yeah, I'm guessing about 25 to 30% would be a
Okay.
good guess.
Okay.
Also, do you prefer to take up turnkey projects or do you position yourself as a design and supply specialist?
Uh, we engineer to provide better solutions, right? So our focus is on the word solution. So whatever it takes to make the solution come through.
Hmm.
Having said that, we are not typically a contracting or a constructing company, okay,
Hmm.
even globally. In India, we have taken much bigger and bolder steps in terms of construction in the past. But this is not an area which we would say is our core strength or core competency. So if the need is there from the client's point of view or from the solution point of view, then we are always up for it. But if it is a more general kind of a work or a more general kind of contracting that's involved, then we are happy to work with contracting partners.
Okay, fair enough.
So would you say that Maccaferri India significantly contributes to the parent company in terms of revenue, in terms of business generation, etc.?
Yeah, Maccaferri India contributes about 9 to 10%.
Okay. A question on geosynthetics. How do you see the geosynthetics industry in India, and how developed do you think it is with respect to the European geosynthetics market?
Well, India has a long, long way to go. We are still scratching the surface in terms of geosynthetics, really. In the last year, there are many manufacturers of geotextiles that have come up in India. There are a few manufacturers of reinforcement products like geogrids and things like that. And essentially that, I think this TechFab is manufacturing a large range of products. And apart from that, I don't think anybody else has that big a range of products. There are different kinds of manufacturers for different things. But even then, when we look at the application of geosynthetics and the structured way in which it happens in Europe or in the US of A, we are a long way off, really. But there's a lot of work that is ongoing right now with Ministry of Textiles and with the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and other ministries which have a stake to kind of give it a much better shape and structure, so that the there will be a significant uptake in the consumption of geosynthetics in India. We have come a long way in the last 2 decades, but there is still a long way to go still.
Okay. How many production facilities does Maccaferri have in India, and are you also exporting your materials to other parts of the world? And has the Make in India initiative helped Maccaferri India in any other way?
And in India itself, we have 1, 2, 3 units for manufacturing, and we have one more in Nepal. So India, Nepal, we kind of treat as the same region more or less. And yes, we do export to countries. We have exported to Middle East, Southeast, China, Europe, Latin America. We have exported to all these places. And Make in India per se has had no impact on us, really. I mean, we haven't seen any benefit flowing down to us with respect to Make in India or the Atmanirbhar concept.
So do you think India will soon have its own guidelines when it comes to testing and certification of rockfall barriers and rockfall protection? Like, Europe has ETA, there is GEO in Hong Kong, Geo guidelines. Do you think India will soon have something like that?
Soon, you need to define soon. In the context of India, soon is very different from what it is in the rest of the world. So we definitely need those kind of guidelines, given the scope and opportunity for these kind of products and applications that there are in India. But it's going to take some time. Right now, I think there are some basic works that are happening. We are representing the industry in many of these committees and discussions with the government departments. But earlier, there was only a state-of-the-art report by IRC. Right now, there is some ongoing work on some slope guidelines that is happening, which should be coming out soon. But to reach the level of definition that ETA or Geo offers, we are quite some time away. It will take at least 5 to 10 years, probably.
Okay. So, if you're talking about the RE wall market, can you tell us some of your current competition in terms of the market? And there's so many players that are operating in the segment. How does Maccaferri position itself as a market leader in this overcrowded industry?
You're right. The entry barrier in this market is very, very low. I mean, anybody with access to a reinforcement product, which is a GeoGrid, and MSCW software can basically enter the market. But experience counts for a lot in this, and also the ability to manage large projects, which is why you will see that the largest part of the market is basically divided between McAfee, Strata Geosystems, and Reinforce Earth Company Private Limited, and yeah, these are probably the three largest, which probably account for almost, I would say, 60% of the market, and the remaining 40% is divided in the other players like with the likes of TechFab and EarthCon and Geosys and Sachi, and there are so many others who are doing that. And the reason why we are able to maintain our market share is because while of course remaining price competitive, but price competitive with respectability, not like going down there. We offer a robust system and service, and I think which is why the customers who work with us, they like to work with us on repeat projects, on larger projects, because we are able to deliver on a time bound basis. And then, especially in the case of these larger projects, when there are challenges on site, then we are able to stand up and mitigate those challenges, which is a big support for the clients or the customers. Because if they have to start firefighting at every RE wall, and you can imagine RE walls are like usually happen at the fag end of the project. The groundwork can happen earlier, but the completion usually happens at the end. And the RE wall usually becomes the, let's say, main block in terms of completing the project on time. And RE walls again are smaller structures spread over long distances. So, the contractor is happier to offload this to a responsible company with a good track record, uh, so that it's a big headache that's off the plate. And that is where I think companies like ours comes through, because we are able to provide them with that level of service and the level of confidence. And of late, I know since you're covering news in this sector, you might have heard that there are certain failures which are consistently happening in some of the RE walls. And this happens when people are not paying attention to the more let's say finer details, like the connection, like the compaction and things like that, which is why again the larger or the mid-sized clients prefer to work with somebody like us on whom they can depend. And worst case situation, for example, if something does go wrong on a site, at least they have somebody who's accountable who will fix it also. Not somebody who's like a fly by night operator and who's not going to be available tomorrow to do anything about it. So that's why there are many reasons why large contractors or mid-sized contractors prefer to work with known companies who have a track record and who are delivering what they're saying. So
coming back to the geosynthetics industry, India imports a lot of materials used, say wires, when it at the moment. Do you think companies like Maccaferri, Geobrug, big players in the industry, do you think you will start manufacturing these products in India soon on the lines of European standards?
well, we are already doing it. I can't speak for Geobrook. Definitely been doing it. We have been, even for the Rockfall sector, we have been manufacturing the HE or the high energy absorption panels and the steel grid meshes and things like that. And we have the bandwidth to, start manufacturing at very short notice. Right now is probably not the perfect time to look at doing anything new, but depending on how the market responds and what the volumes are, we are absolutely open to that possibility.
Okay. We came across your project in Uttarakhand, basically at Govind Ghat. Can you throw some light on it, on how is it different from some other projects, some interesting insights, which would help us, highlight that project particularly?
See, Govind Ghat or a project like Govind Ghat becomes interesting because, like I said, it's a landslide mitigation project. And in a landslide mitigation project, you cannot approach it with let's say, a standard formula that because it's landslide mitigation, you need to do this. For example, you cannot, take a standard RE wall approach and put it on a landslide mitigation. Landslide mitigation is where the true depth of a technical company comes to the forefront, because it is based on your experience, your technical knowledge and depth, that you're able to assess a problem holistically in the case of landslide. And the solution actually starts there in terms of identifying the root cause of the problem, because in the case of landslides, the trigger may be different in different cases. So until and unless you identify the trigger for the landslide in a particular area, you will probably end up making a wrong solution for that, which is why it's very important to have that right kind of experience and knowledge base and technical skill set to be able to identify the problem. Now, typically in a landslide, also it is not just one issue which needs to be paid attention. There have to, have to pay attention to multiple issues. For example, there could be a hillside issue, there could be a valley side issue, there could be a river running at the bottom which is eroding the toe, which may be the real cause of the problem. And if you don't pay attention to that and we do cosmetic changes at the top, then it's likely to fail again. This is the reason why these whole 7 locations of this particular package that we did were very special, because we did these are known as Uttarakhand packages 1 and 2 under Ministry of Road Transport and Highways Works. The details can be shared by my organization, but there were 7 locations in this particular project which had to be treated, and each one of them had a very unique problem in terms of landslide mitigation that had to be offered. And we have completed all of them except one, which is still probably taking a little time because of forest clearances and permission to, because there is a huge overhanging rock which needs to be kind of blasted through over a period of time. Apart from that, 6 other solutions have all been completed very successfully. The case studies and the informations can be shared by my office. You could maybe use some of them in the article that you would like to publish. So in the case of Govind Ghat also, the challenge was that, we wanted to avoid cutting the hillside, because if we would have cut the hillside to expand the road, then it would have triggered probably more slides. So which is why we decided to go on the valley side and to shore it up from the bottom and expand the road. And this again is a call that one can take when one has that range of experience and the technical acumen to do that. And once we were able to identify that, then it was we had to convince the authorities that this is the way to go, and well, it worked.
Awesome.
There for everyone to see. Yeah.
The current government has recently announced and proposed the Bharatmala project. How do you see the geohazard industry playing a key role in the completion of this project?
It is very important. I think even the NGT, or the National Green Tribunal, should be let's say educated about these kind of geohazard solutions that our kind of companies offer. Because even the Char Dham project, for example, that has been being delayed for a lot of reasons, for these environmental issues and things like that. And what happens is that you cannot blame either side. On one hand, the infrastructure has to be built. On the other hand, the environment must be preserved and protected. And there are ways to do that. But the problem is that the client or the consultant is not seeing the kind of solutions that we have to offer, and they are going ahead with the standard approach of awarding projects to contractors who are then just looking at a particular project just from a monetary point of view, because they want to finish the project on time, earn their money and get out of it. And the defect liability and other things be damned, that can be taken up at a later stage to for somebody else to sort out the mess. But the point is that this does not solve the problem. The contractors go in, they do random cutting of the hills, they do random dumping of the debris, and these further complicate the problems over a period of time, because these are actually accentuating the environmental issues that are already there, especially in areas like Uttarakhand and Himachal. Uttarakhand more so, because these are, let's say, new hills, and they are still forming. They are very delicate ecologically, and they cannot be disturbed that much. So if they were to take the approach right from the word go, the authorities and the design consultants, then the solution could actually be inbuilt into the project, and the contractor would have to kind of execute it in these lines, like these 7 projects that we have done. It's a great example for these kind of solutions. And the environmental concerns could also easily be met without damaging anybody's interest. The projects could be completed on time in an eco-friendly way, saving money for the government, and also the contractors doing a good job. One of the biggest fallacies that we have noticed is that DPR consultants appointed by Ministry of Road Transport and Highways do not have the basic requirement even of a geotechnical consultant. When they make the when they make the bid preparation, and we are supposed to provide the
Yeah.
resumes of the engineers and others, they do not emphasize on the need of the presence of a geotechnical consultant, which is the most basic thing, which is wrong with this. Any infrastructure being built in sensitive areas like hills, along rivers, and this and that and all that, must have the presence of an experienced geotechnical consultant right at the design, investigation and design stage, because that's when you're addressing the issues. You cannot address the issues once the damage have been done. It has to be done much before.
Sure, sure. Fair enough.
So, just following up on Neha's question, considering the current economic situation brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, do you think that the government will aggressively work towards the Bharat Mara project?
Uh, they ideally they should, but I don't know whether they could, because it's a function of having the kind of funds that are required.
Yeah.
And at this point of time, at least in this financial year, definitely all surplus funds from all ministries, from what we gather, are being diverted to mitigate and manage the COVID-19 situation, or also to probably, the huge packages that the government has announced, those have to be kind of also lived up to. A part of that is also, of course, infrastructure, because the push on infrastructure development has to and will continue. But how much of it will be possible or how much not, only time can tell. We cannot estimate. But we see in recent times that the government has been pushing infrastructure projects. All our clients are saying that they are busy, and the good thing is they're also saying they're flush with cash, because the government is releasing payments. Accordingly, we are also getting paid. So right now it seems like a virtuous cycle. Usually it's a vicious cycle. Right now it seems like a virtuous cycle. So we have to wait and see how it turns out.
How you guys have been operating in India for over 2 decades now, I think. And can you throw some light, especially in the last 3 years, if I have to keep the pandemic aside, how has the year-on-year growth been for Maccaferri in terms of turnover, revenues? What is the year-on-year growth?
2019 was flat on 2018, and 2020 will be flat on 2019. So year-on-year growth per se, not much. I would say negligible, because last year, in the last 6 months of 2019, we, not just us, but the industry at large, faced a tremendous liquidity crunch, because of which our clients were not able to pay us. They were not getting paid, and we were not getting paid, and things. We became very selective in terms of doing business. We dropped business almost close to about 100 crores in the last 6 months, which we chose not to pick up or execute or whatever. Um, so we ended up pretty flat, just about kind of managing the situation with respect to 2018. 2018 was a good year, and then in 2020, of course, the thing is in front of you. But the good thing is that in 2020 we are doing not in terms of turnover, but because we have been very proactive about managing the crisis and managing our situation and all that. In terms of profitability, we are definitely doing much better than the previous 2 years.
Wow.
So while we are going to end up in terms of turnover more or less at the same place as last year, even in 2020, but in terms of profitability, we will do well.
Awesome.
The important thing about the year-on-year growth is that there has been a shift in strategy that we started applying in late 2017 through 2018 and 2019, which is we decided that you had asked a question about us being taking up turnkey solutions, right? So earlier we were taking up the turnkey solution of the construction jobs within Maccaferri Environmental Solutions itself. But right now, what we have decided, or we decided about 2-3 years back, is that we are going to carve out the construction business and put it in a different company, which is going to specialize in construction. And in Maccaferri Environmental Solutions, we are going to focus on our core competency, which is design, market and business development, manufacturing of products, technical assistance on site, and that core. So because of this, we deliberately started, bringing down our construction services business, and we started shoring up our solutions-oriented business, which is more focused on products and technical services. As a result of this, the overall turnover growth also suffered, but the quality of business improved. What I was just explaining to you, that even this year, we are going to be doing much better. So this is an important transition that we have already put in place. And because of COVID, things went a little slow. But post-COVID, when things start picking up, then we will be in really good shape, because we will have a fully dedicated construction company, organized as a construction company, to take on specialized jobs where the need is, or get into joint ventures with other contracting companies to take on larger projects. And our core focus on solutions and systems and services will also be ramped up as the opportunity arises. So we are in a good place right now.
Awesome. So this construction company that you're talking about will be a subsidiary of Maccaferri, right?
Yeah.
And is it only going to be specifically to India, or is it going to be like a global company?
At this point of time, the vision is restricted to India.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you will be spearheading that as well, and it's your brainchild. Okay. Nice.
Yes.
Some major infrastructure companies in India have gone under liquidation. How is this affecting the industry as a whole?
Well, cleanup has to happen sometime, right? So that's happening, and I per se am happy about it. Because what happened was that when the projects were coming, even the large companies were being very greedy without having a sense of reality in terms of what they're really capable of, either financially or organizationally, to execute. They were trying to mop up as much as they could in the shortest period of time, and that was not a healthy approach. And then, having taken the businesses, there was also the issue of funds being diverted to other projects and things like that, which was hurting the industry per se. So some companies getting into that kind of trouble is good for the industry in the long run, because one is the upcoming companies will learn a lesson from this, and they will probably not repeat the same mistake, hopefully not. And the whole business cycle will, again, from a vicious cycle, would probably become a virtuous cycle, which is good for the entire industry. We have had some impact on business because, for example, Punch Lloyd went into NCLT. we stand to lose some there. Then ILFS went belly up. We got hit by that as well because we had reasonable exposure to ILFS. Um, well, it's part of a growing economy like India. Things like this happen, and we are kind of taking it in our stride. We are trying to recover as much as we can, but we are focusing more on what should not be done in the future and what should be done in the future.
Okay, okay, fair enough. So we read about this product, Macfarmer. I think it's not yet launched in India. I still would want to know a little bit about the product and any other product development initiatives by the Indian company. And are we bringing that to India as well?
Yeah, MacArmor will definitely come to India, no doubt about that. MacArmor is meant for the global markets. MacArmor is again an innovation of on our existing range of products. Where basically earlier we used to have these products which used to have strength in a mono direction. Then they had strength in both directions, but lower in the cross direction and more in the machine direction. But MacArmor basically brings a kind of, let's say, a high energy absorption net, which has significantly higher strength in both directions. Essentially, that is what MacArmor is. Plus, it is a product which is combined with a mesh, so it becomes that much more easier for the contractor to install, saves time and money, and these kind of advantages. It will come to India soon. You will get more details of it.
Awesome. Any last few parting thoughts? Anything that you'd like to add?
Well, like I said, that I'm happy to see an initiative like GeoXchange coming up because there was the need of a common platform. Bringing the best in the world to India as well as disseminating the developments happening in India to the rest of the world. But more importantly, to bring the stakeholders onto a platform where there could be a genuine exchange of information, genuine and impartial exchange of information. It has to be impartial for it to be beneficial.
Yes.
And yeah, once that happens, then I think we could move towards developing this industry probably faster than it may have otherwise happened. So yeah, all the best, and hope you are able to contribute the way you have envisaged or envisioned as you stepped out to take this initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Really means a lot. Thank you so much for your time. I know you have a really, really tight schedule. So really appreciate it.